For a year now, we've been reporting on questionable spending by a South suburban politician named Tiffany Henyard. But we only knew half the story.
Tiffany Henyard, the mayor of Dalton, Illinois, has become one of the most controversial political figures in the nation, with even her own supporters turning against her amid growing allegations of corruption, lavish spending, and shady dealings. Some critics have gone as far as calling her the most corrupt politician in America, a title that has gained traction as scandals continue to pile up. Initially rising to power in 2021 under the banner of positive change, Henyard's tenure quickly spiraled into chaos. With report of financial mismanagement, cronyism, and unethical behavior, what started as a promising political career has been overshadowed by accusations of corrupt practices. Among the most alarming allegations is Henyard's misuse of taxpayer funds for luxury expenses, including high-end travel and upscale purchases, all while Dalton grapples with a severe financial crisis. The town's multi-million-dollar deficit has only deepened due to questionable budgetary decisions. One of the most egregious examples of her administration's mismanagement is the substantial overtime raises granted to police officers, raising suspicions of backdoor deals and favoritism. Critics argue that Henyard's administration has been marked by unchecked spending and self-serving decisions, with little regard for transparency. Her leadership style, described by some as authoritarian, has also come under fire, with reports of intimidation tactics and retaliation against those who challenge her. The growing backlash from both residents and local officials has led to increasing calls for investigations into her conduct as the pressure mounts and investigations into her administration gain momentum. Henyard finds herself at the center of a crumbling political empire. Once strong allies have turned against her, and constituents, frustrated by the town's deteriorating condition, are demanding accountability. The question remains whether Henyard will manage to evade the consequences of her actions, or if her downfall is inevitable. One thing is clear. Dalton is in turmoil, and all eyes are on Tiffany Henyard as the truth behind her controversial leadership continues to unfold.
Those officers to be on the street fighting crime, and instead we have several officers that are riding around.
Tiffany Henyard, the mayor of Dalton, Illinois, continues to dominate headlines as a string of new scandals emerges almost every few weeks, further cementing her status as one of the most controversial political figures in America. One of the most outrageous examples of her questionable leadership tactics came with her infamous proposal to slash the salary of any future mayor, but only if she loses re-election, It seems almost like a backup plan, acknowledging the possibility of her political downfall while attempting to protect herself. Yet, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Henyard's lavish spending habits have sparked outrage among Dalton's residents. Reports show that she has spent tens of thousands of taxpayer dollars on extravagant trips, luxury accommodations, and first-class flights, all while the town grapples with a crippling financial crisis. In a span of just 5 months, Henyard allegedly racked up a small fortune in expenses, booking stays at upscale hotels, such as the Four Seasons in Atlanta and the Marriott Marquis in Times Square. However, there has been no tangible benefit from these so-called official trips. Despite the absence of any discernible outcomes, Henyard's administration has refused to provide any transparency or justification for these expenses, maintaining an unerringly tight-lipped stance. Chris Gonzalez, a town trustee, has been trying for months to obtain answers regarding the mayor's lavish spending. However, Henyard has shown no willingness to explain her actions to the very residents who elected her. It seems as if she believes herself to be above answering for such financial decisions, further fueling suspicions that she operates with an alarming disregard for accountability. If her reckless financial decisions weren't enough to spark outrage, the mismanagement of Dalton's police department under Henyard's leadership has added another layer to the scandal. One of the most alarming issues has been the alleged abuse of overtime payments. Some officers are reportedly raking in more money from overtime than their base salary, with one officer allegedly earning over $100,000 in overtime alone, more than doubling his regular pay. These excessive payouts have fueled accusations of fraud, favoritism, and possible misuse of taxpayer money, with critics questioning whether this money is being funneled for political loyalty or personal gain. Speaking of loyalty, Henyard's inner circle is also under scrutiny, and no individual has attracted more controversy than her top ally, Deputy Police Chief Leo Lacy. Lacy has been one of Henyard's staunchest supporters, but his own criminal record adds another dark chapter to the mayor's already troubled administration. Lacy was indicted on charges of bankruptcy fraud, a scandal that only deepens a cloud of corruption surrounding Henyard's leadership. Despite these serious allegations, Henyard has stood by Lacy, further fueling accusations of cronyism and corruption, Within her administration, such blatant loyalty to individuals with questionable backgrounds only serves to reinforce a narrative that Henyard's leadership is rooted in political favoritism and self-serving deals. History has shown that when political figures operate with this level of arrogance and disregard for accountability, the eventual collapse of their leadership is inevitable. And it seems that Henyard's house of cards is starting to crumble. Investigations into her actions are intensifying. Public outrage is growing. And even former allies are beginning to distance themselves from her, all of which spell disaster for her tenure. One of the most controversial actions taken by Henyard has been her decision to reappoint Leo Lacy to his position despite a clear vote by the town board to fire him. This move has ignited a fresh wave of outrage in Dalton, leading both residents and board members to question how she could defy a legal decision so brazenly. Lacy, despite being officially dismissed, has continued to show up for work, acting as if he is still in charge. This situation is no longer just a bureaucratic dispute. It is a full-blown power struggle within Dalton's leadership. Rather than stepping back in the face of growing public backlash, Henyard has doubled down, portrayed herself as a victim of an unfair and racially motivated attack. She has framed her critics as those trying to undermine her leadership because of her race and political stance. In her speeches, she has called for unity, while simultaneously deflecting from serious accusations surrounding her administration. Henyard has sought to redirect attention away from the scandal of Lacy's reinstatement, framing it as a calculated plot by those seeking to destabilize both her leadership and the entire town of Dalton. However, this narrative has done little to quell the mounting frustration among residents who see it as an attempt to avoid responsibility if the political fallout from Lacy's reappointment wasn't enough to further tarnish her reputation. Henyard's actions have also drawn the attention of former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. The Dalton board hired Lightfoot to conduct an investigation into the town's finances, and her preliminary findings have painted a damning picture of Henyard's time in office. Lightfoot's investigation revealed a disturbing pattern of financial mismanagement under Henyard's leadership, with the town now drowning in millions of dollars of debt. Worse yet, the investigation uncovered instances of unreported spending and questionable credit card transactions that seem to have no legitimate connection to government expenditures. These troubling revelations have only intensified public frustration with Henyard, who continues to present herself as the embattled leader under siege. Instead of taking responsibility for the mounting crisis, she has continued to deflect blame, shifting attention to her alleged victimization. As the financial situation continues to spiral, residents are becoming increasingly disillusioned with a government they perceive as chaotic, opaque, and completely out of touch with their needs. Henyard's refusal to engage with the gravity of the situation, choosing instead to shift blame and deflect responsibility, has left many questioning her ability to lead the town out of its current crisis. Despite the overwhelming evidence of mismanagement and the growing public outcry, Henyard remains defiant, convinced that she is being unfairly targeted by those seeking to undermine her. Yet, as Dalton continues to grapple with financial and political dysfunction, it is becoming increasingly clear that the situation is far beyond a simple political dispute. Rather, it is a glaring indication of the dysfunction within Dalton's local government, and whether Henyard can weather the storm remains to be seen. With the financial investigation still ongoing and public confidence continuing to erode, Henyard's leadership is under intense scrutiny. As residents grow increasingly frustrated with her lack of transparency and accountability, the future of Dalton hangs in the balance. The real question now is whether Henyard will face the consequences of her actions, or she will manage to evade them through political maneuvering. Only time will tell. But one thing is certain: the eyes of Dalton's residents and the nation are fixed firmly on her, and they will not stay silent for long.
Make a one-day purchase of over $40,000 to Amazon. And the main thing is,
one of the most shocking revelations in recent weeks is that on a single day, $40,000 was charged to Amazon with no explanation for where that money went. It's a glaring, unaccounted-for expense that's impossible to ignore, and it doesn't look good for Mayor Tiffany Henyard. Yet, despite the mounting scrutiny, she is still trying to keep up appearances. In fact, she's been referring to herself as a super mayor, even bragging about the success of taxpayer-funded events, such as the infamous $85,000 party she threw, which turned out to be a complete disaster. Fox 32 investigated Henyard's use of police security details for these events, which involved pulling officers off the street and costing taxpayers thousands of dollars. For this particular event, Henyard flew an R&B singer Keisha Cole and rapper Jay Holiday, yet hardly anyone showed up. Can you imagine spending that much money on a party that nobody attended? It's almost too ridiculous to believe. But it's yet another example of how out of touch Henyard seems to be with the very people she's supposed to serve, and the people are not happy. Public meetings in Dalton have become increasingly chaotic, with residents openly calling for Henyard's resignation. People are fed up with seeing their hard-earned money squandered while basic town services continue to suffer. During one meeting, a resident even shouted, "You've done nothing. You don't care about nobody but yourself." It's clear the tide is turning against Henyard, and the people are demanding accountability. Despite the growing anger and scrutiny, Henyard has yet to address concerns about her financial mismanagement or her failure to serve the community. In fact, her behavior only seems to further alienate residents. What's more alarming is the growing shift in attitudes among Henyard's own supporters. Take Carmen Carlisle, for example. Once one of Henyard's closest allies, Carlisle has now become one of her most vocal critics. Recently, Carlisle accused Henyard of manipulating employees, vendors, and even residents to maintain her grip on power. In a bold and public statement, Carlisle called Henyard's leadership unethical and predatory. This wasn't behind-the-scenes whisper campaign. It was said publicly, in front of Henyard herself, at a PAC board meeting. The betrayal couldn't have been more public. And it's a clear sign that even those who once supported Henyard are no longer willing to ignore her failures. Carlisle's accusations carry significant weight, because they highlight a growing pattern of self-serving behavior that many are now beginning to recognize. The defection of such a key figure from Henyard's camp signals that her political base is crumbling, and her attempt to salvage her reputation are becoming increasingly unconvincing. The continuing scandals, combined with public outrage, have created a perfect storm for Henyard. It's hard to see how she can weather this crisis, especially after alienating so many key supporters, wasting taxpayer dollars on frivolous events, and failing to address the financial and social needs of Dalton's residents. The increasingly chaotic public meetings serve as a constant reminder of how much trust Henyard has lost from the people she governs. As the pressure continues to mount, it seems inevitable that the situation will reach a breaking point. Whether Henyard can continue to deflect criticism or if the tide will finally push her out of office remains to be seen. But it's clear that the community of Dalton has had enough.
Has investigated Henyard's use of a police security detail, taking officers off the street and costing thousands of...
Carmen Carlisle isn't the only one speaking out against Mayor Tiffany Henyard. Dalton trustees have begun pushing for new ordinances designed to limit Henyard's power, and they're getting increasingly serious about investigating her actions. There's even talk of potential legal action, which would spell real trouble for the mayor as the investigation into her financial mismanagement intensifies. While Henyard continues to try and control every move the board makes, they are pushing back harder than ever, determined to uncover the full extent of the mess she has left behind. As if things weren't already bad enough, rumors have begun circulating about secret meetings between Henyard and select business owners in Dalton. Allegedly, Henyard has been offering these individuals special treatment, such as faster permit approvals and relaxed regulations, in exchange for financial support for her re-election campaign. While no concrete evidence has emerged to support these claims, the whispers have only fueled the community's growing distrust of Henyard. These rumors are deepening the belief that she is more interested in securing her own political future than actually serving the people of Dalton. Then there's the matter of Henyard's personal spending. Sources close to the investigation have claimed that Henyard has been using taxpayer money for not just extravagant trips, but also personal shopping sprees. Items ranging from designer clothing to luxury furniture have reportedly been part of the questionable purchases under scrutiny. If these claims turn out to be true, Henyard could face even more serious legal trouble, potentially including embezzlement charges. Unsurprisingly, the calls for her resignation are growing louder by the day. Residents are fed up with watching their mayor continue to squander taxpayer dollars while ignoring the financial well-being of their town. The tension is palpable, and the political fallout from Henyard's action seems inevitable, but the frustration isn't just coming from political insiders. It's spreading among Dalton's residents, who have had enough. For months, they watched as Henyard spent more time promoting herself than addressing the pressing issues facing their community. Now that more details are emerging about the town's dire financial situation, people are demanding answers. They want to know why their mayor is living large while Dalton sinks deeper into debt. The public's reaction to Henyard's sudden loss of her personal security detail after her spending was frozen has only added fuel to the fire. Her once massive police entourage was cut off when funds were frozen, along with her credit cards. One online commenter humorously pointed out, "It's hilarious that Henyard no longer has a personal security team. Her funds were frozen along with everything else. It's like the house of cards is collapsing, and people are noticing." Another commenter bluntly stated, "Does she even watch her videos being shown? She's so corrupt it's normal for her. Doesn't know right from wrong. A sixth grader would do a better job as mayor. She's so ignorant." These are just a few examples of the growing frustration felt by residents, and it's no wonder they're calling for her to step down as the investigations into her financial mismanagement continue to unfold. The pressure on Henyard is only mounting. The involvement of the FBI, Lori Lightfoot's ongoing probe, and public officials demanding more transparency have left Henyard in an increasingly precarious position. It's difficult to see how she can hold on to her position for much longer, especially with the mounting opposition from all sides despite the overwhelming pressure. Henyard continues to fight back. She has refused to cooperate with investigators and insists she is the victim of a politically motivated smear campaign. But at this point, it seems her attempts to deflect blame are becoming less convincing by the day. The question now is, what's next for Henyard? Will the ongoing investigations lead to criminal charges? Will the board finally be able to rein her in with new ordinances that limit her power? Or will she somehow manage to hold on to her position despite everything that's happened? One thing for sure, the drama is far from over. The town of Dalton is watching closely, and the stakes have never been higher. Henyard's claims of political persecution may resonate with some, but for many, they sound like little more than a tactic to avoid accountability. The coming weeks will likely determine whether she is forced out of office or she can continue to battle against the growing opposition. Whatever happens next, it's clear that Dalton's residents are demanding change. Henyard's ability to navigate this scandal will likely decide the future of her political career. Stay tuned for more updates on this wild ride, because you never know when the next big scandal will break. Thank you for watching Celeb News.